I don't know anything about it. Hi, everybody.
Sure.
We're going to get started now. I want to thank everybody for coming. My name is Steve Benson. I'm the co-host of AVNewsCast. And AVNewsCast, as well as our media pathway here at Guidance Charter School, is sponsoring this debate. It is a public school. We're using the facility, so I want to let you know that the school does not endorse anything that's going on here right now. This is an AVNewsCast presentation. This is what we're sponsoring. My co-host, Jeff Sheldon, is over there. This event is being live streamed at the same time. I want to recognize a couple of people that are here. I want to say thank you to the executive director, Mr. Kamal Al-Khatib, for letting us use the facility here. I appreciate that. The Guidance Charter School, the high school principal, Stephanie Nahar, thank you very much. Thanks for all your help. I really appreciate it. Laura El-Khatib, thank you. I appreciate your help too. And Julio Chavez, but also the entire staff here at GCS. They've been great. This is not an easy thing to do, especially at a school, and they've really been great. And all the students that are doing this. Rebecca right now running the camera. It's really nice to be able to come here and do this and bring the candidates to everybody here so that you have an opportunity to hear what they have to say, and they're going to have an opportunity to hear what you have to say. The debate's going to last an hour. After the debate is over, I'm going to go open mic. So if there's people in the audience that have something that they want to say, they're going to get a chance to talk to the candidate of their choice and ask some questions. Unfortunately, right now, J.D. Kennedy is not here. He's on his way. He's also the president of the LA Air Show. He's running a little bit late. He had a previous commitment, and I knew that a month ago when we set this up. He said, I will be there, but I'm going to be running a little bit late. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to let each candidate do an opening statement and introduction for 2 minutes. Kaisera is going to be our timekeeper, okay? And she'll be the timekeeper. She'll give you cues. You'll know exactly when your time is up, okay? The candidates may not share all the same views, but tonight they do have to share the same microphone, okay? So there's a microphone right there. It's right next to you, Kermit, actually. You can go turn it on, and we'll start with you, and then you can pass the microphone down. Okay? No.
Hello?
You can pass the mic. I'll share mine. Go ahead.
So I can speak there or here?
No, right where you are.
I would love to.
Go ahead.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Kermit Franklin. I am a Democrat for State Assembly, and I'm running for several reasons. I have experience in the California State Assembly. Last year I worked as a legislative aide where I wrote bills, where I formed relationships with the upper house, the lower house, and also in the third house as well. I'm here because I don't believe you should be working and living in poverty. And that's why I support increase in minimum wage, AB 4. I think that's really important. As it relates to the poverty level, California has the largest poverty level in the United States. 23.8% people live in poverty. Regardless of that, part of this district covers Los Angeles County. 1.8 million people live in poverty. So we have to change that. Increase in minimum wage on a federal level and on the state level will change that. In the Assembly, as you know, they voted to increase the minimum wage, which is going to occur within this year and, of course, next year as well. Secondly, if you're a woman working the same job as a man, I believe that you should get paid the same as a man. That's why I support income equality. That's very important. Not just income equality, but equal pay for equal work, which is very important to all of us. That's why I support the California Equal Pay Act. 75% of women, or rather, a woman makes only 75% on a dollar to every man, and we need to change that. Secondly, as it relates to those that have been unemployed for long term, we need to make sure we change that. So I want to encourage Congress to make sure they pass the extended unemployment benefits, which is very important to all of us that are working, or rather not working. I just want to say in conclusion that we need to make sure that we are being supported.
I guess it's ready, set, go, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me first begin by thanking each of you for being here. And those of you who are here live streaming, thank you for paying attention and being engaged, because that's what makes us stronger as a district and as a community, is by engagement. Let me tell you the reason why I'm running for this particular position is because, and I had this discussion a little bit earlier today, I enjoy representing. And I love the challenge of representing because my experience in law enforcement and as a teacher have allowed me to understand and to appreciate the differences of people. And to focus on what brings us together, I think, is very, very powerful. And I'm very proud to say that this particular opportunity is being supported by some very strong leaders that know what it takes to be very successful in government. I have the endorsement of both of our congressmen in this district. Also, Senator Steve Knight has endorsed me. We have Supervisor Antonovich, Mayor Ledford, and I have a number of endorsements. And the reason why I've gotten those endorsements is because they understand governance, and they understand how to be successful in governance. Right now, we have some very important decisions that need to be made. Proposition 13 is under attack, and I'm very proud to say I have the endorsement of some of the greatest tax fighters and protection people in this state, and that is the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We need to protect what is rightfully ours, that is under attack, and we need strong, principled leadership. I believe that my experience on the school board helps me understand the demands in education, and I believe my experience on the city council helps me understand the application of public safety and also economic freedom, because that's our only hope for the future economic improvement of this state. Our government has been well-intended and is strangulating the golden goose, and we need to get out of the way, and I look forward to your support and this engagement tonight.
Good afternoon. My name is Suzette Martinez, and I am a candidate for the 36th Assembly District. And I'm running because Sacramento is in desperate need of bold, new leadership. For too long, the policies of Sacramento have created in the Antelope Valley an 11.5% unemployment rate. They haven't prepared our students for education. My background is, my parents on my father's side has actually been a small business owner for about 35 years. His family is originally from Kern County. His family has worked in the fields. They were part of the labor movement with Cesar Chavez. My grandmother spoke about those days of fighting for the rights of labor. On my mother's side, her mom was born in Mexico. Her parents met in Puerto Rico. So she's actually firstborn American generation here in California. Now, both of my families came to California, came to the United States, looking for the American dream, looking for opportunity. Yet Sacramento politicians and policies of the left have stripped our families of those very rights. The past couple of years, I've been working for a nonprofit organization in early promoting and being an advocate for early childhood education. I understand the magnitude of how California has failed our students. In the Antelope Valley, less than 5% of our high school graduates are ready for college. Only 33% of our students are grade level proficient in math. This is unacceptable. How can we lower taxes? How can we get rid of straining regulation to bring business here if we don't have a work-ready workforce? We need to invest in our children. We need representatives in Sacramento that are in the community, that are working with community members to understand the real needs, the real wants of business, of families. If you want that for you, for your family in Sacramento, then vote for Suzette Martinez on June 3rd. Thank you.
When you're ready, sir.
Just once, I'd like to give a speech. Instead of giving rhetoric, I'd just like to say the real truth of what I really think, especially when people bring up different issues. Now, I was a Republican for 30 years. I changed to being a Democrat. I got elected. And my answer was, I want to represent my community, not just a party. In my office, I hired half Dems, half Republicans, and I said, This is the people's office. The first thing I pushed through was the enterprise zone. And what that did, and I was one of the two-thirds vote to make it happen. When it almost got killed in the Senate, I was there till 11:30 at night pushing it through. Gives a tax credit for Palmdale and Lancaster areas that when they hire somebody new, that business gets a tax credit. Now there's an incentive to hire new people. Another component, it gave the governor the ability to create his own tax incentive, go to companies in other states and say, come to California, don't go to Texas. It's time Texas business came here. We create more jobs right here. In the last year, we've created over 1 million more jobs in the state of California, and we're getting a lot more done. I went to audits, and I got them to agree to an audit, to audit the 4 water districts so we can see, can we bring down the prices? I haven't got those results back. When I do, they'll get published. I pushed through a number of positive things, and I have a number of bills that are right there. I have one on giving grandparents rights, because sometimes they're the main caregiver. I have another one that's going to stop most of the sexual predators from coming into our area, because right now, there's a law that says they have to be within 2,000 feet of a school. And guess what area in LA County has all the territory? Us. So I've got a law, 1607. I've worked with the district attorney's office, and we're working to get that passed. Just passed through another committee today, and it's going on the floor. And now the DA will be able to lean on it and discuss it, and this courts in LA will have jurisdictions, and we will stop the sexual predators from ever coming to our backyard.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, let's get started. The format's going to be really simple. The questions came from the general public. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. First question, and we will begin with Kermit. It's difficult to find a job. I'm employed, but looking for a new job. I make $9 an hour, work 40 hours a week. I have 2 kids. I take home $1,196 a month, and my rent is $850 a month. I cannot survive on minimum wage. Are you for or against raising the minimum wage? How much do you want to raise it? If you do, and why? Go ahead, Kermit.
I am for, obviously, increasing minimum wage. That's part of my platform. The problem from a federal level is the Republican Congress will not approve it because of their hatred for our president. Now, on a state level, we will increase it twice. Once this summer, and we're going to increase it next year as well. So I'm for increasing minimum wage because it will lift thousands in our state out of poverty.
Mr. Lackey?
Yeah, certainly this is a very, very important question. And it has to do with your philosophy on the economic condition of our state and of our country. And I will tell you that I believe that raising the minimum wage is the wrong approach for a number of reasons. And I am a person that is very sympathetic for people who are trying to improve their own personal circumstances. And the best way that we allow them to improve their circumstances is to create an economic condition that gives them choices to have upward mobility and to give them the kind of tools that they need to make themselves more marketable in a better job environment. Entrance jobs are meant to be entrance jobs. And what happens too when we increase the minimum wage is what we do is we minimize and we decrease the availability of those entrance level jobs are people who are getting ready to enter a job market and who need those entrance level opportunities to show reliability and punctuality and all those other very, very critical measures of success. And I believe that raising the minimum wage just encourages and is a disincentive for self-improvement. And so I think that that is not the correct answer, and it's not even the most caring response. So I have a different perspective on the question.
In the Antelope Valley, we have a poverty problem. 1 in 5 of our neighbors are living in poverty, and it's unacceptable. However, I do not support a minimum wage increase because the very people that a minimum wage increase is trying to help, those people that are feeding a family that are making $9 an hour, are not the same people such as teenagers that are working at Magic Mountain like I do when I was 15 years old for the first time. It's a treating the symptom, not the disease. I do understand the struggles of families. What I do support is an earned income tax credit for all those living within under 100 and 200% of the federal poverty level. What that would mean is upwards of $2,000 to $3,000 a year during tax season to actually pull people out of poverty. People don't need an additional $50, even though that's food, even though that's gas a month. What they need is a new car. They need bigger items. They need to actually be given a hand to be lifted out of poverty. We need real solutions to deal with this issue. The minimum wage increase will kill jobs and hurt the very people we intend to help.
Thank you, Suzette.
I currently sit on the Jobs Committee in the State Assembly, and I've co-authored over 100 bills to help jobs. When I was chairman of the board of Antelope Valley Hospital, we did a market survey, and we gave raises to all of our employees, all of which were higher than minimum wage. When I had my own business, which I still have, and I had 5 employees, I paid everybody way over minimum wage because they earned it, because I was able to figure out how to generate a business. And that's the real answer. We have to bring more business, give more people an opportunity to own their own business, give more people an opportunity to hit the glass floor and say, I'm not just going to work for somebody else, I'm going to work for myself. The real answer is helping other people to help themselves, to let them own their own property, their own business, and let them work as hard as they can, and let them make not just a minimum wage, let them make a living wage. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next question. You know what, Suzette? Keep it, yeah. Let's change up the order. Okay? Thanks. Next question. On January of this year, the state Supreme Court ruled that an illegal immigrant in this state illegally and without a green card can be licensed to practice law and be a lawyer. Our state legislature passed a law allowing this, circumventing federal law. Now there is a new Senate bill known as SB 1159, which would allow 40 state boards to accept TIN numbers instead of a Social Security number. If elected, how would you vote on SB 1159 and why?
Now, I can't give you the specifics on how I would vote because I don't know enough about the legislation to make a decision on that. What I will say is my position on immigration. We need immigration reform, and I am supportive of immigration reform. And the reason why California has to create laws is because the federal government has failed to deal with this issue. First and foremost, we need a safe and secure border. There's a humanitarian crisis going on our border with human trafficking, with drug trafficking, and we need to protect also our national security and defense. We need to make sure that we have a safe and secure border. We need a work program for people who want to come to California and come to the United States to work. We need to deal with immigration. I also am supportive of a conditional pathway to citizenship. We have 11 million undocumented immigrants living within our borders. 11 million. This is creating an economic crisis for California that we have to deal with. There's my position.
Tom?
Yeah, clearly this question is one that's hard for me to wrap my mind around, but I will tell you that I think the more important issue that it's trying to address is the immigration problem. And I will tell you that I believe that the remedy is at the federal level. We at the state can tinker all we want, but until we actually have a federal solution, we're not getting to the crux of the problem. And I think I would certainly hope that everybody would agree that right now our immigration policy is broken. It's clearly broken, and it seems to be that either party has the courage to address this issue directly. And I would tell you that we need to elect the people that have the courage to address this issue in a very direct way. And I tell you, one of the people running for Congress, Steve Knight, has addressed this issue in his own home, where he had, and you ought to hear his story on how he had to spend the night on the steps of the office in order to get in line, in order to achieve citizenship. That is a ridiculous system that we have set up. It's clearly broken, but we need to work with our federal people who are in that position to make the change, and then we in the state of California can conform properly. But it's clearly broken, and we need the courage to address this in a more direct, courageous manner and be honest with the people. Thank you.
Kermit?
Unlike the incumbent, I support Assembly Bill 241, which is the Bill of Rights for domestic workers. The truth hasn't been told about this as it relates to immigration reform. There are many people in this country, specifically in this district, that are exploited by the employers. And many people don't talk about that. They're used or utilized, but they're not paid the wage they're supposed to be paid. Secondly, as it relates to immigration reform, none of them have spoken the fact that we have 20% of our Medal of Honor winners that are immigrants. Many people in this country want to rid themselves of immigrants, legal or illegal. But the fact of the matter, all of us came from somewhere to this country. That's what we enjoy, is the diversity. As it relates to this bill, I would support this bill, just like I support Senate Bill 1005, because a disease does not have a zip code. It's very important that we understand this, because otherwise we discriminate against people, and that's what we don't want to do. Look, if you're an immigrant in this country, you should not be treated as a second-class citizen, and I believe in that, regardless of where you came from. It's very important. Thank you.
Steve?
I was a school teacher for 10 years, and for a number of years I taught at night. In the day I taught ESL, English as a Second Language, and at night I taught also ESL classes, and I taught the Amnestia class when they had it. And what that is, it's a class that gives a pathway to citizenship, where people can earn their right, just like the rest of us, just like our grandparents that came over here, they earn the right to citizenship. It's, in truth, yes, it's up to the federal government, but in a sense that's a cop-out. We can still do things about it. I have support of immigrants becoming citizens. My grandparents came from Russia. I'm sure everybody else here came from someplace else. But if we give them a pathway to earn it, that's really the direction we have to take. Everybody has human rights, and as long as people are here, they deserve to be treated with those rights. Thank you.
You want to hold on to that, and you can respond to this question? Next question. What companies did you work with in preventing them from leaving our state? Because when companies like Campbell Soup, Toyota, Occidental Petroleum leave our state, they also take with them thousands of jobs. And if you had not had the opportunity of preventing companies from leaving our state yet, if elected, what solution plans do you have in order to reduce the regulations and lower taxes in California to prevent companies from leaving our state in the future?
I get this one?
Yeah, use that one.
Glad you asked the question. I've co-authored AB 1839, which is a tax credit for the film industry. What this does is, for each film up to $100 million, it gives a 25% tax credit. They're in LA. They're out of LA. There's an additional 5%. It's over a 5-year period. So what we're doing is we're getting them to create films here in California. Most of our film companies haven't been created in years in California. Our weather's better, but they're not making money. They're going to other states. So the goal here is to give a long-term tax credit for the different film industries. And this is one of the 100 bills that I've co-authored, and this one I've worked with Raul Bocanegra, who's one of our local assemblymen, in doing. And this one's coming up for a vote, and this one's going to pass, and this one's going in the budget, because we're going to keep jobs here, we're going to bring jobs here, and we're going to keep the money here and get you employed.
Steve, thank you for introducing that piece of legislation. But what I'd like to see is tax credits for all industry. Government should not be picking winners and losers, especially when it comes to business and industry. California has the highest income tax, the highest personal tax, the highest corporate tax on the West Coast. We need to make California a business-friendly California. Less taxes, less regulation, and we shouldn't just pick one industry to do that for. To go back to your question, industries that I would work for, specifically that are in need here in our own Antelope Valley, is aerospace and defense. California had a huge opportunity this past month to be designated as a center of excellence by the FAA, and that didn't happen because our legislators in Sacramento failed to do what was needed to ensure that that would happen for us in California. When I go to Sacramento, I will ensure that we're bringing jobs back here for the industry that we have, which largely focuses on aerospace and defense.
It's interesting that we have one perspective that says how great California is doing economically, and I think that that is just a different view that regular public and the business at large people actually are experiencing. All you have to do is go to Torrance and ask them how things are going economically there, where Toyota is leaving, and we have an exponential amount of people who are leaving the state. And it's very simple as to why. We have not created an environment where these businesses feel that they can do what they do best. And we need to change that. We need to change our environment here. And we have an opportunity in Mojave to do something very specifically and very simple. They have asked for legislation to relax the liability standard for supporting industries for commercial space travel. And they have a number of states who have already expressed interest and willingness to support that type of legislation, but yet the California legislature has failed to act. And I'm telling you, folks, that is a very direct impact on our Antelope Valley. And that we're talking about hundreds and thousands of jobs and an unbelievable opportunity to expand success and sustainable and very, very exciting employment opportunities. And we're not taking advantage of it because of the perspective that exists up there that needs to change. And I promise you that I will help encourage that kind of change and bring some actual sense to what needs to happen here locally. Thanks.
Look, let's face this, okay? No one on the right that gets in or you elect will do nothing, okay? Because we have a majority in the Senate and we have a majority in the Assembly. And we have a Democratic governor, which is probably going to be reelected. That's just a fact, period. Because when you come to the state assembly, especially as a freshman, they'll tell you, have a seat. We'll take care of it. You just vote the way we want to vote. I know because I work there. Secondly, as it relates to the fact of jobs in this economy, there are several things we can do. First and foremost, we need to start with the federal level by extending unemployment benefits. Secondly, what we also need to do is increase the minimum wage. Also, we need to protect and grow our aerospace industry and remove the glass ceiling for females. That's very important because there are several females here that are head of this single household, and they need to be paid as much as a man. That's very, very, very important. Also, we need to attract and create green jobs, which is very important. Not many people speak about that, but I think that's pivotal, especially where our state is going. Very important. So, with that said, these are the things that need to occur and will only occur with a Democrat in office. It will not occur with a Republican, period.
Okay. The next question deals with welfare reform. Some people, not all, use welfare as a job. Stay on welfare forever because it's easier than getting a job, and there is no built-in incentive to ever get a job. Do you support welfare reform? And if so, what would you suggest we do to reform the welfare system in California? Kermit, go ahead.
Well, first and foremost, I'd have to look at the bill, see what welfare reform is. Because I got to tell you, a lot of our seniors, a lot of our disabled veterans are on welfare, and a lot of people that work. You know why? Because they're not getting the wage that they're supposed to get in order to get out of welfare. Look, if the other side is serious about getting people off of welfare, getting people out of the fact of unemployment, what they need to do is offer a living wage. A living wage. What's wrong with that? But no, they won't vote on that. You know why? Because they like having people in poverty. They like the fact of the haves and the have-nots. But that's not what I want. I want our middle class to be restored. It's very important that our middle class be restored. That's where I'm heading. So until I look at the bill, until I see it, I don't have an opinion about it. But I will tell you, there are people that are on welfare because they have no other choice.
Wow. Let me just tell you my perspective on welfare reform. The best welfare reform is to get somebody a job. And the way to do that is to improve our economic condition so these people don't have to rely on public assistance. I don't know too many people who are proud to get public assistance. And I will tell you that it's a bit demoralizing to most people. And what we need to do is create an economic condition so that these people can get on their track and become part of the middle class by being productive. That is the answer. Teach them productivity. And some people need a kickstart. Some people need temporary opportunity to get themselves together and to have a hand up and have somebody give them guidance and direction. And that could be the role of government to get them in that particular pathway. And I would certainly support every venture to educate people and to teach people how to become competitive. But there also has to be jobs available for those people once they become competitive. And right now we have plenty of competitive people, but we don't have jobs. We have a very, very skilled labor force here in the Antelope Valley, probably some of the brightest people who are unemployed. But our economic condition is the reason why they need assistance. That's inexcusable. We have plenty of reason to have more jobs available here, and I think that government is a major impediment instead of an advocate. And that needs to change, and that's my perspective.
Thank you, Tom.
Like Tom, I think we need to look a little bit deeper into this issue. And the reality is that Democrats have been in the majority in Sacramento and created legislation and policies that have left our children with horrible educations. We need a quality education system. Students are not graduating high school ready for skilled jobs. If they're not ready for skilled jobs, if they're not ready for college, how can we expect them to be employed with living wages? We need to make this a business-friendly California. We need to lower taxes. We need to lower regulations. Of course, we need welfare. I'm a compassionate person. I believe that there are times in a person's life, whether they were laid off, whatever's going on in their life, that they need that helping hand. They need a hand to help them up. But the policies that Sacramento is implementing has created for Black and Latino students and children the largest achievement gap in the nation. What's happening in California, the policies, Democrat liberal policies, is ruining our state.
Thanks, Suzanne.
The State Assembly has 80 members, 55 are Democrat, 25 are Republican. I've been able to fit into the middle area, the conservative Democrats, we call ourselves the Mod Caucus. There are times we vote with the Republicans, so on Second Amendment rights we're protecting, and there's times we vote with the liberal Democrats on education. As far as education goes, what I've done is I did a survey and found out that our kids in our Antelope Valley have a higher graduation rate than most of the kids in the state. We have a lower college graduation rate because they don't have access to a four-year college. So I got a bill through the Assembly that's now going over to the Senate side to start the study to have a state four-year college right here in the Antelope Valley. I'm pushing that. In addition, yesterday I met with the child care workers that if you don't make a great deal of money, you can apply and get people to basically take care of your kids while you're working. That gives you an opportunity to go get a job. They've been cut for the last 4 years. I told them I support their program going to where it should be so that they can provide daycare for people to go and get a job and have a chance to better themselves. That's what we have to do. We have to find ways to get people to help themselves. We teach people how to fish, they feed themselves. And that's the direction we have to take.
Thank you, Steve. Our next question deals with mental health. There's a stigma concerning those with mental health issues. What changes, if any, do you feel we should do to address the needs of the mentally ill? And what role should mental health play in gun regulation?
Believe it or not, this is an issue that's very, very important to me. My degree is in special education, and I was ready to commit my career to helping people that have mental challenges. And I tell you, I believe it's one of the most overlooked parts of our population. And there was a well-intended directive taken place back in the 80s where we deinstitutionalized our people that were having challenges mentally. And even though it was well-intended, it proved to be disastrous. And what's happened is these people get ignored, quite frankly, because people find them so difficult to deal with that they just push them away. And now we have got a very serious problem that we need to deal with, and this is a very important part of the public safety component of government's role, and I don't think there's any more important role that government plays than public safety. And these people need our help. And I believe that there is a way to reach out to these people and to provide opportunity for them and to provide safety for them. And what happens is if they're giving unsupervised circumstances in a capacity that they're not able to handle, then their level of responsibility is also, it's diminished. And what happens is we as a society just want to try to forget about them. And it's deplorable, it's inexcusable, and we must do better. And I believe the way to do that is to address it honestly, vigorously, because we have professionals that understand this problem, and we need to partner with those professionals and bring remedy and funding to this problem. That's all I have.
Thank you, Tom.
I have a now 8-year-old niece who, when she was 2.5 years old, was diagnosed severely developmentally delayed, as well as a year later diagnosed with mild Asperger's. And my mother, who was an early childhood educator for 25 years with Los Angeles Unified School District, had seen some of those indicators at a very early age, so was able to go to the county for resources for early intervention. And as someone who is an early childhood education advocate, who understands the foundation that preschool and early childhood gives children, but also as a platform to be a part of an early intervention process, is very important. In terms of mental health, what I'd like to see is investment and funding starting at very young ages, because I think that if we get to children and to people at a very young age, a lot of the mental illness can be prevented. Now, in the later years, it's created kind of an economic drain for us in terms of our homeless population. We have to deal with our homeless population, especially here in the Antelope Valley. And a lot of what happens during that process is mental illness. And if we are not providing resources for our homeless population to get them off the streets, to make sure that they are ready to go back to work, to make sure that there's investment for our homeless population, how are we really addressing mental illness? I also think that when it comes to guns, because I think you did connect these two, guns and mental illness, that I am pro-Second Amendment. And I think that mental illness is the problem and that it's not part of our gun issue.
It's a large issue. The last 4 years, the state's had some poor economics. Before any of us were there, we were $80 billion in debt. I think when John Perez came in, they were $40 billion in debt. Right now, they balanced the budget, and they put away $2.5 billion in a rainy day fund. Rainy day fund is 5% of the general operating budget. I just co-authored legislation to make it 10%, so we never have these problems again. So we have an even budget going through. So when we have a drop, we don't have to cut programs. A lot of programs have been cut over the last 4 years, mental health being one, and education being another. We've recently reinstated a great deal for the education. Our schools are getting more money. The governor put into the new budget, paying off all the loans that the schools have taken over the last several years. So now the schools are on an even paying level. We're figuring out which programs to reinstate. And it's a real question because we also want to keep the state balanced and we don't want to have the deficit or the problems we've had in the last few years. I believe SB 70, the number I think by Steinberg, previously he put in for additional money for mental health, and I think that's going forward. I think that there's a lot of talk on centralizing the mental health so that you know exactly where to get some help and some assistance. These are key issues. There was also a bill that I voted on that dealt with keeping guns out of the hands of those who may be mentally disabled. I voted for every Second Amendment rights bill. I was even able to get the Dems with the Republicans together to kill a bad Second Amendment rights bill, which I don't think anybody else could have done. But there was one bill to stop the mentally ill from having guns, and I voted for that. Again, the problem isn't the mentally ill, it's not the guns, but the mentally ill have to be kept away from the weapons. We have a responsibility to do that too. The issue needs help. We've been giving assistance. Education needs assistance. We've been trying to do as much as we can. We have more to get done.
Well, it's true. We need a lot more to be done. But addressing it we need to address it initially at the levels of our youth, whether they be in school, or whether the fact that we're addressing it at a level where people are incarcerated. Because a number of people are incarcerated because they're mentally ill. And so we certainly need to address it there. And as it relates to the fact of the gun regulation, I don't think anyone that's mentally unstable should be handling a gun. I don't think they're two separate issues at all. I think part of the reason that people commit certain crimes, whether they're going into schools or going back to their employee, is because partially they are mentally ill. So that needs to be addressed. And until it's addressed, problems are going to continually occur. I'm not for taking anyone's guns away. I'm a Marine. Therefore, I believe people should have their guns and be able to protect themselves. But when it comes to mental illness, I don't believe that someone should have the right to own a gun. Now, that said, I want to go back to what Mr. Fox talked about as it relates to AB 736 with regards to the CSU. Now, I did my homework. I looked this bill up, and on 6/17/13, this bill, as it relates to the State Assembly, was in a file somewhere saying, pulled by the author. He says it's in the Senate. The research doesn't show that. Okay? So you can believe you have a CSU coming here or not. I don't believe that. And that's a fact.
Thanks, Kermit. The next question, and by the way, you said I connected the two. I didn't write these questions, okay? All right. I do have a few that I want to ask. You know what's really hard? Being a host on News Talk Radio, and I've had all of these candidates on our show before, is while you guys are talking, not being able to debate you, not being able to jump in. It's really tough. The next question. The LA County Board of Supervisors just recently voted to construct a new prison in Lancaster out of the Mira Loma Detention Center. This would be a women's prison. AB 109 is putting more criminals on the street due to overcrowding. We need safer streets, safer neighborhoods for us and our children. Judge Brown is trying to relocate serial rapist Christopher Hubert to the Antelope Valley. We have a high concentration of registered sex offenders here in the Antelope Valley. Since AB 109 clearly isn't working, what's your solution? Go ahead, Suzette.
I think we need both long-term solutions and short-term solutions. AB 109 is releasing prisoners early. And one of the major problems with AB 109 is it looks at the last offense. I'm just going to go a little bit into that. It looks at the last criminal offense and not the history of the defense. So we are actually, of offenses. So we're actually letting people out into the street that are violent sexual offenders that have committed all types of violent crimes and shouldn't be living amongst our community because they will be reoffenders, and typically the data and the research says that. In terms of long-term solutions, one of the best ways we can fight the need for prisons, a growing prison population, is through education. Education is the foundation of upward mobility. And if you have an education, if you go to preschool, you're less likely to be involved in crimes. We need to make sure that our students, that people are ready or have a quality education so that they don't have to go into that prison system. That's a long-term solution. A short-term solution is that we need more prisons. Where is that money going to come from? Well, one of my suggestions is that we redirect the spending from the cuckoo train, the high-speed rail, and use it to expand our prisons.
Thanks, Suzette.
Certainly, the matter of dealing with criminal conduct is a very, very critical piece in the success of our future society. And AB 109 was imposed as a result of federal intervention. And I would tell you, as a person who's engaged in law enforcement conduct, we've got some problems. And part of our solution to this problem is going back to the fundamental building of families and creating an atmosphere of support. And we're forgetting that. And it is a very, very critical piece that we take a proactive approach to building character and not relying on outside influences to do that. Because now what we're doing is we're dealing with consequences that are unsavory and that are very, very hurtful. And so I think that part of our solution is understanding where we're broken before we're actually able to fix it. And we're broken at the family level, and we need to surround ourselves with our churches and with other community activities and organizations to try to build character. Now, as far as these people that have already offended, one thing we don't want to do is be dishonest with our public. And I believe AB 109 has done that with this non-violent, non-sexual, non-serious characterization of these people. As was mentioned before, really what AB 109 does is only focuses on the last offense that they pled to. So it's a misnomer on the threat that these people pose to. We need to hold these people accountable and find a different way to do that instead of just releasing them out into our public. That is an irresponsible and an unsafe solution.
Thank you, Tom.
For years to come, we've only addressed the symptom. We've never addressed the problem. We have to look at the problem as to why people are incarcerated in the first place. Whether the fact that they're mentally ill, whether the fact that they're addicted, whether the fact that they're jobless, whether the fact that they're homeless. That's the key. We need to address that first, because not addressing that and not addressing the fact of the recidivism rate, right? I'm sure some of you have relatives that are incarcerated and things of this nature. They think that they're doomed. A lot of them don't even know after they're incarcerated, after they're off probation, that they can vote. They don't even know that. Right? So we don't put them back in society where they can be part of mainstream. So we need to decide, are you punishing the person? Are you trying to get the person back in society? Okay, you can have it both ways, but you need to address the issue. That's why the recidivism rate is about 65%. We need to make sure that we're addressing the fact of the reason they went to prison or jail in the first place. Now, that said, I also believe, as it relates to AB 2534, that we can contract private jails to hold people in. Since people are complaining about the fact there's too many people on the streets that are committing the same crime. Okay, if that's the fact, why don't we address the issue that they can't get a job? Why don't we address that issue? Because employers are not going to hire you if you've got a felony. So how are they supposed to go back and not do the same thing they've done before? That's the key, and that is the issue, and that we're not addressing, and this is why this problem is going to continue unless we do something about it.
I want to introduce our last candidate that just walked in, JD Kennedy. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I know you had another event. I don't know if you heard this question when you walked in. Did you?
We're fixing the flaws in AB 109?
Well, yeah, not just that, but go ahead. Yeah.
All right, well, first, I apologize for being late. I'm the president of LA County Air Show for about 30 more minutes. We were doing our change of command and a volunteer appreciation event tonight. We had about between 300 and 400 volunteers. We hadn't had a proper opportunity to thank them, so we did a volunteer appreciation dinner for them tonight. So I was coming down from Foxfield. But yeah, if you could go ahead and read the
I'll ask the question again, okay? And then you got a little time to, okay. The LA County Board of Supervisors just recently voted to construct a new prison in Lancaster out of the Mira Loma Detention Center. This would be a woman's prison. AB 109 is putting more criminals on the street due to overcrowding. We need safer streets, safer neighborhoods for children and for us. Judge Brown is trying to relocate serial rapist Christopher Hubert to the Antelope Valley. We have a high concentration of registered sex offenders here in the Antelope Valley. Since AB 109 clearly isn't working, what's your solution?
Well, we do have to address the problem in the full spectrum. It's not just put the prisoners away, lock them up, forget about them. While I do agree that we've got to build more prisons, we also need to contract with private prisons and put state-paid, professional, trained correctional officers in those prisons for the short term. That's a part of a short-term solution. And we've also got to do a better job educating and offer programs in our schools that make sure that we produce work-ready graduates and also create jobs for them to feed into here locally. We need to do a better job with after-school programs and make sure that we've got mentorship programs to where our students aren't becoming those criminals that end up overcrowding our prisons and we release. But for the short term, recap, build some more prisons, contract with our private prisons, put those professional state-paid correctional officers in there, and then focus on the youth, and then as well as the criminals that are already in prison, make sure that they're learning a trade, that when they re-enter society, they're able to enter the workforce as well.
Thanks, JD. Here, Steve Fox.
I'm no longer concerned about rehabilitating the sexual predator. I want him locked away, kept off the street, protecting my public. Now, when the courts decided that it was cruel and unusual punishment to have so many packed away, I think it was cruel and unusual punishment to release the prisoners on us. So when the governor tried to negotiate with the courts, I laid into it and said, let's take the private prison, which is in our district, which still needs some rebuilding in California City. Let's get rid of it. It's half empty. It's got some federal prisoners. Let's turn it into a state prison. They agreed with me, and 4 months from now, it goes online and has permitted for a second prison. We'll have 2,300 more state prisoners in California City and off the streets.
Thank you. I have one question I want to ask, and then I'm going to end this debate, and I'm going to run an open mic. The one rule to the open mic is you can come up and ask a question. I know there are a lot of cards submitted here, so if you submitted a card and you want to ask it, maybe it's nice to attach a face to the question, okay? The only thing I ask is, you know, it's got to be a fair question. We did this once in 2012, and I don't want people going on the attack, because that's not what it's about. I do have one question, though. Since we are at a charter school, and there is a bill up in the legislature, it's known as SB 1263. It deals with charter schools. I don't expect you to know the bill, but my question to you is, how do you feel about charter schools? Go ahead, down there. Go ahead, JD.
Well, I think first we need more schools. We need more teachers. We need smaller classrooms, and charter schools is a great option to offer that. It offers parents an option as well. It creates competition. Competition is good for everybody. It ensures that everybody's fighting to be better and better. That's what capitalism is, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have it in the school system as well.
With regards to charter schools, I'm a product of public school. Therefore, I support public schools. However, charter schools have a lot of good ideas that we could adopt into the public school system. I believe in the public school system. I'm a graduate of the public school system. And that's why part of my platform is to extend Prop 30, which saved California teachers, which made sure that they were not unemployed. Also part of my platform is to close the loopholes on Proposition 13, because there's too many corporations, too many businesses that are getting away without paying their taxes. I think that's pivotal.
Thanks, Corey.
I think it deserves mention that charter schools are public schools. And secondly, I'm very proud of the fact that I took a position in support of charter schools, this very school institution that we're sitting in this gym here, back in 2001 when it wasn't so popular to be in support of charter schools. I was part of a 3-2 vote to allow schools of choice. Because you know what, ladies and gentlemen, one size fits all doesn't work for public education. And this is a partner of public education. And unfortunately, what's happened in too many of our schools is we focus that academe is the only way to success. And certainly it is important to be encouraged, and it is a way to be successful, but it's not the only path. And we shouldn't make our people that seek trades feel like they're any less successful than those who become doctors. It's a part of our society that's very, very meaningful and very critical to all of our success. And so one of the advantages that charter schools have is more flexibility to reach out in genuine interests in peculiar talent. And that's what we need to expose is people's individual talents. We need to have an institution that has the ability to recognize that peculiar talent and let them reach their dreams and feel very, very confident in being successful in the society that we all share. Because everybody deserves to be successful. And I believe that charter schools is part of the agreement, or part of the ingredient for our future success, and part of the educational dilemma that we're facing. It's one of the solutions.
I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and my 2 older brothers went to Olive Vista Middle School. And while at Olive Vista Middle School, they got in a lot of trouble. Drugs, gangs, a lot of the things that we see here in our own community. And my parents said, we can't afford it, but we're going to make sure, Suzette, that you and your little brother do not have that same experience and do not fall prey to a horrible public school system. So my dad worked overtime, 2 jobs, my mom the same, to send me and my younger brother to a private school. Now I know a lot of parents face this same issue. They are in communities where their school, high schools, elementary schools, grade schools are failing their students. And they don't want to be forced to send their child to a failing school, yet they don't have other options. In 1992, charter school legislation was passed, and they've been doing amazing things in communities. And I fully support charter schools. One of the first changes I'd like to see with charter school legislation, as it is currently, the Board of Education will only approve 100 charters on an annual basis. I'd like to look at zip codes where they are failing students and say, if you want to form a charter in a failing zip code, we will approve that. We need to get rid of this crap, these caps, and say, parents, if you want to be a part of creating an educational community and you want an education system in your own community that works for your children, then we'll approve this charter.
Thanks, Suzette.
By the way, I was just texted by my ledge director. I guess they're listening in, and CSU AV is scheduled for the Senate Ed Committee to be heard. Regarding education, I was a school teacher for 10 years. In the day I taught in junior high, one of the hardest education areas to teach. The summers I taught in the prisons. My wife now teaches 3rd grade at Sierra Elementary. On the other hand, my senior field rep homeschooled both her children, and I've met with a number of people who own charter schools. The truth is, different education is for different kids who have different needs. That's the reality. You teach each kid based on his own need and his own ability, and that's where we're headed.
Thank you, Steve. You know, it's really nice to have a lot of people here, and one of these people is definitely going to Sacramento. Now, a lot of people submitted cards. Does anybody want to come up and actually ask a question? Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Come on up.
My name is Cynthia Beverly. I am the founder of an organization called One Way Up. I service the low-income families inside the community of the AV community. My question to you, all candidates, hello. The low-income families are being railroaded in the justice system compared to the wealthy and middle-class families. Wrongful convictions, the 3-strike law, 25 years to life. long-term sentencing. What would you do to help the low-income families that's crying and reaching out for help? How would you help them?
Justice delayed is justice denied. Right now, for an eviction, you've got to go 100 miles to LA, and it's almost impossible to deal with an eviction. If you couldn't afford the rent, you can't afford to go downtown LA to fight it. Being an attorney, on meeting with the other attorneys, I have lobbied both the governor and the Senate to have additional funds for the courts. Even to maintain what we've got, we're about $336 million short. The support for the court system is coming from the Assembly. The problem is the governor's blue penciled quite a bit, and we basically have to continue lobbying the governor to get more money into the courts so we can have greater access to justice.
I'm going to go back to education, because as I mentioned earlier, Black and Latino students, who are largely a big part of the population, are dealing with the very question that you asked, have the highest achievement gap in the nation. When we create an educational foundation for our students, they're not going to be involved in crime. They're going to go to college, they're going to get jobs, they're going to buy houses, they're going to be productive members of society. And that's one of my main priorities, is to make sure that every student in our community has access to a quality education.
Certainly this is a very critical question for the future of our country, for the future of our local community. And I think I addressed it a little bit earlier, my perspective on this problem, is I think we need to understand there are those that need help outside the family because their families are very, very difficultly defined, quite frankly. Our foster care system is completely overburdened. We have people who need to rally around these folks, and we need to give them the tools they need to be successful, because what happens is we don't have an engaged group of youth. What they will turn to is dysfunctional behavior because they feel desperate. And we need to reduce that amount of desperation by creating community support and to allow real programs that reach out. We have a great program here locally called Youth Build that reaches out to our young people and has given them the tools to be leaders and to be successful. And those are a number of people that have proven to be challenged in a number of ways that I never had to face. And that is a successful remedy because it's given them skills, it's given them self-confidence, and it's keeping them away from the judicial system. That is the real answer, because we have an overburdened judicial system. And so there you have the perceived and sometimes confirmed mistreatment because it's overburdened. And what we need to do is eradicate and at least reduce the amount of people that are facing that criminal system by giving them the tools to be successful and help them to understand how to be productive. And because that's when you become really, really happy, is when you understand how to become productive and how to think outside of yourself, but also to support yourself. And that's the reason why we have so many different problems from my perspective, is because we have so many unsupported people.
We have not addressed the issue of our Black and brown students, period. Why? Because initially the schools labeled them as ADD and other things, which they shouldn't have been labeled in the first place. Look, kids in various cultures learn differently. And until we're in tune of how they learn, we're going to label them certain ways. So that's what we need to change. And as it relates to the fact of them being incarcerated, we need to make sure that they are not being incarcerated, one, for their own reason, two, that they're being incarcerated fairly. Because there's a lot of people that are being incarcerated in our communities of color for an offense that someone that's not a community of color is being incarcerated for. And that's the important thing that we look for. That it has to be justified and it has to be justice. That's what we're looking at, and that's what we have to address.
I don't know where Cynthia went. All right. Well, I think first for our low-income families and the third strike law, we first got to take a look at the youth, the juveniles that are starting to commit these crimes before it becomes the second and the third strike. We need to capture those young people that are first committing that crime and determine why they're committing it. If it's a family problem, if it's an education problem, get them into a program that turns them around, that rehabilitates them, that gets them headed in the right direction. The AV Youth Build is a great program. I've seen them do great things, and I've seen great things happen at the Boys and Girls Club that I'm a member of the board of here in the Antelope Valley. But if we're going to ever expect that any criminal, regardless of income or race, is going to turn themselves around and become a productive member of society, we've got to have those mentorship programs, those job placement programs, those different things, those after-school programs in the education system that we keep seeing get cut and cut more. We've got to get those back into our education system and make them available for our young people if we ever expect them to not end up becoming that third strike criminal.
Thanks, JD. Okay, you have a question? You know, since we have so many people, and I'm hoping that the candidates will stick around after we're done to maybe talk to people. Okay, can we limit the responses to 1 minute so we can get through some of these? Is that okay with everybody? All right, go ahead.
Hello, my name is James Riker. I am a student at Dry University, which is a 4-year university right out here in Palmdale. My question is, what are you going to do at the state level for the regulation trying to be passed by the U.S. Department of Education that is against foreign gainful employment that's going to affect the for-profit educational system of colleges with their financial aid? What are you going to do?
Are you guys clear on that?
I think I get the gist of it. I think I get the gist of what he's asking. Do you have a mic? I think the gist of your problem is what's our position on supporting for-profit universities. And I would suggest to you, first of all, the definition of for-profit is arguable. What institution doesn't work for a profit? I mean, it's whether it's the professors or the institution themselves. I think when the goal is education, that it deserves support. And I don't think that making the distinction because that they're a private institution that they don't deserve support is an unfair characterization. And I think that institutions that have been labeled as for-profit institution is a clever tool being used by institutions who want a monopoly and want to continue to raise the cost. And I think that that is hurtful.
California has a great university system, and it's because it consists of for-profit, private, faith-based, public. It's competitive, and I think when you have a field, when you have choice, when you as an individual have options, that's what's served best for the community. So I do support the overall goal of higher education.
Since we have more input in the public schools, let me tell you what we're doing for you. We passed the Middle Class Scholarship Act. What that does is for middle class families, if you fill out the proper forms, you make under $150,000 a year, your child, the college student, can now get for the first year a 14% reduction in the fees, the second year 20%, the third year 30%, and the fourth year 40%. Now you can afford to put your kid through a 4-year college. In addition to that, we found that our kids coming from AVC going to the 4-year college weren't getting in because those colleges were taking the out-of-state students paying more. So we passed that if you take a specific 60 units at AV that we've earmarked, you will be guaranteed a spot in the state 4-year colleges.
Well, just a few years ago, because I'm not that old enough to where it's a long era ago, but when I was going to college at the Canyons and then later on to Brandman, the biggest issue wasn't the cost of the school, but rather the availability of courses. I would start with finding a way to ensure that there's more courses available for students to take rather than expect a student to find some fill-in course to keep them going from semester to semester until they got that course they needed to finish their degree and then move on to their later courses and degrees.
As it relates to the financial aid for those, I think everyone should be given a chance as it relates to the fact of them going and being able to attend school. That's important that everyone becomes educated so they can be progressive sooner versus later. As you know, the graduation rate for high schools out here is probably, what, 50%. So we need to definitely change that.
Come on up. You submitted a question on paper, didn't you?
Hello. Hi, my name is Hi, my name is Joel DeMarcus Jenkins. I am a veteran and also a student at DeVry. At this time, it took me 3 months to get seen by a medical doctor. It took me a year and a half for me, as a veteran, to even get into the system for the VA. I have still had back issues that have not been addressed. How do you plan on helping the veterans out here in the Valley?
I currently sit on the State Assembly Veterans Committee. We pushed through, and I helped push through an additional $5 million to get the claims payment ready because there's a backlog on claims. In addition, I just sponsored a bill it's called the TAP program, Transition Assistance Program. So when you get out of the service, you'll know what things are available for you in the state of California. We've also made it where even the wives and children of veterans get extra points when they apply for a civil service job. We are doing a number of things for veterans. I've co-sponsored a number of them. The biggest thing is going to be on the ballot this June 3rd, Prop 41, which I co-authored, which gives a $600 million bond for housing, and it's different levels of housing. Some can be transitional, some can be an actual house the vet owns that will be housing for veterans. We also pushed through the Work for Warriors program, and this year we got 2,500 veterans jobs through that program. We have the largest amount of veterans of any place in the entire state. We have a lot to do. We owe our veterans an immense debt of gratitude. There's not enough we can do for you. We're going to continue to do it.
Can I ask that all of our veterans stand up? Thank them. Thank them all for their service. They're amazing American heroes. Thank you. My grandfather, thank you for your service. Both of my grandfathers are veterans. One of my grandfathers served in the Korean War, the other the Vietnam War. And I respect everything that you've done for our country and everything that they have done for our country. I formerly worked for House Armed Services Chairman, Congressman Buck McKeon. And during my time in that office, it was very clear that a lot of the needs of veterans weren't being met. So during my 4 years there, I did a lot to help veterans, including being a part of finding our first wounded warrior, which was J.D. Kennedy. I thank him for his service as well. So I am 100% behind the veterans. I am actually, one of the people who has endorsed me is Assemblyman Rocky Chavez, or Colonel Rocky Chavez. He also sits on the Governor's Military Council, and I have been working very closely with him to think of ideas and legislation and policy that can help our veterans get the service that they have earned. Thank you.
My answer to this question is maybe a little different than some, but I think that one of the responsibilities an elected official has is to be accessible. And I would tell you that the best answer that I would give you is when you're having a problem, you contact me directly. And we will do the best we can to get you mitigation. And it may not come right away, but it will come. And that is not only peculiar to veterans issues, but other issues of importance, because that's the reason why you have elected officials. If they're not accessible, they're not doing what we expect them to do, in my opinion. And so when you have tried through the system and have had failures, then you deserve to have direct access to the person who represent you in Sacramento, and I would look forward to that opportunity to try to be a bridge to help you get the assistance you needed.
In answering your question, I think the first thing we need to do is rid ourselves of Eric Shiniski, the Veterans Affairs Secretary, which is not doing a great job for our veterans. Secondly, I think also what we need to do as it relates to the fact of veterans is we need to make sure that we change the system where people that are veterans themselves can control the fact of when people are seen. Waiting 6 months, waiting a year is it's just unbelievable that you have to wait that long. I know, because it happens to me as well. Having to wait that long is just, it's disastrous, especially if you have a real mental issue or otherwise. Now, if you want to get serious on this as it relates to veterans, our incumbent voted today no against AB 1678, Public Utilities Bill to recruit disabled veterans, which is just unbelievable. So that's part of our address as well.
Well, first for you, I'd say I worked for Congressman P in the last 4 years dealing with exactly the issues that you're having. And after tonight, if you'd like, I'd be happy to get together with you and point you in the right direction and make sure we speed up your process. It shouldn't be taking 3 months to get your the health care that you need. As far as the state's concerned and speeding up that process, there's not a whole lot that the state can do because the VA is federal. The one thing that we could be doing is working better with the federal VA and processing of those claims to where it's run by a computer database rather than the paperwork that it's currently run under. Even at Buck's office, we weren't able to submit anything through the internet. Everything had to be mailed or faxed in, and that turns into literally there are floors at the VA that are caving in and having to be restructured because of the amount of paperwork. We need to be moving and working as state with the federal to merge those systems together to where it expedites that process. But like I said, for you, let me know afterwards and we'll get you taken care of.
Thank you. You know what? Okay, hang on just a second. I want to thank each and every candidate that came here. I'm told that we're going overtime. It's already 7:30, and I promised we would end swiftly at 7:30. But I want to invite everybody that has a question to come up and address it to the candidate. I want to thank each and every candidate that's here for taking the time to be here, and I want to thank everybody that's here in the audience for actually getting in the car, coming out here, and getting involved, because it's really great. Thanks, everybody. Come on. Yeah, okay.
I got one for you, and I have one for Mr. Kinney. I wasn't too, I forgot you about this episode, but I spent 2 hours in the MRI. Like we talked about the space age, liabilities, standards. Oh, yeah. Freddie. I lived on in Little Rock. Because I was out there close to that. I went to a town council meeting in some village. Okay, that's okay. Okay, I go to the, well, actually where I live in South Village, okay. Anyway. But yeah, I go to the town council when I'm at school. Yeah, I was there the last one. Yeah, I try to get there. Unfortunately, I missed the seniors, like saying the week before. I was supposed to talk to them. But I'm in contact with Roy. I don't know if you know him. Roy? I can't think of the lady's name who's over the chamber. Oh, okay, because a lot of the ladies at my church are Jolly seniors. There you go. Okay. Okay. So, he's going to address the seniors for me, and I said something, I know the next meeting is not until after the 3rd. So I asked him to report out the second meeting.
someone. We got to dress the black and brown. I want to see the watch. I want to see the watch. That's all I can see from up there. Back there. No, it was really interesting. I want you to know it's good. Different time zones? Yes. Okay. All right. All right. Unless you want to ask us. Okay. Well, as you know, I am the vice president of the Antelope Valley Education, and we are a civil rights organization. Okay. So one of my questions is, October 2013, Governor Brown signed AB 60 into law, and it's not, for undocumented immigrants, which that's okay. We're using the word illegal, which that is wrong. The correct word is undocumented. So I wanted to bring that up because some of the word. So my question is, as of March 2014, 17,540 cars have been impounded just in LA County by the CHP. Now, would you support a 30-day moratorium so that these cars stop being impounded?
Of course I would. Of course I would.